Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We're at episode 795, closing in
Josh
on
Walrath.
800. It's October 16, 2024. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Elstrom.
Okay, I'm Josh Walrath.
The official shampoo of the show is once again the Kraken Guard shampoo, 2-in-1. For those of us who are,
It's
maybe have a little
shampoo
bit of hair
and
left.
rum.
It's shampoo and rum.
What happened to
all
the
in
top?
one.
Where's the top?
It took a bit of a dive, unfortunately.
Okay.
All
right,
yeah, but this is the unofficial shampoo of PC Perspective.
Hey, Brett, doesn't it? Sorry, I can't. We'll get to your introduction in just a moment. Brett, let's talk more about this. How do you find the scent of the Kraken Guard? Is it pleasant to you?
It is. I find it lathers rather well. I do kind of mix it with a little water eventually, because I find it. It's I think it stretches.
Doesn't it almost always mix with water when you are? Because I've never been able to successfully use shampoo without water.
Yeah, what I'm saying is in the Kraken Guard bottle, it's with a little extra water. It kind of helps a little bit.
Wait, you put water in it? That's interesting.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's
Is it salt water?
Wait,
it smells like seaweedish brine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry. You want to introduce yourself?
No,
Sure.
just give up.
I'm Kent Burgess, and I would like to personally thank Jeremy Hellstrom for being the only member of our podcast who does not have Tourette's.
I don't know.
I say those words on purpose.
Yeah. All right. Well, please give generously to the PC Perspective Podcast. Go to patreon.com/PCPer and be like Google 1323. I think that might be a password.
Yeah, you posted this password.
Did you post your own password?
It's not my password. It's clearly their password. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This did come from National Public Data, like most of everybody's secrets. Apologies. Thank you for supporting the podcast and using your password as your alias. That will be useful. This is the one to the bank account, by the way, you were looking for earlier, Sebastian. So.
Oh, good. Yes. Any way we can get directly into your bank account,
makes it easier.
We will. No, we won't. We never do that. Okay.
Oh,
Josh.
come on. We'll give you ours because there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
Well,
No
you're
comments.
Canadian, so that goes without saying.
Josh, it's time for your food segment. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, you know what? When life throws you lemons, No. So I was about ready to go down to Born in a Barn and make my order, and for some reason I just stopped on Facebook, which, it's not great. And there, in very bright colored letters, was due to a missed delivery and running low on supplies, we're not opening until 4:00 this evening. And that doesn't help out when you're at lunch. So I improvised. I'd heard about this and I'd mentioned it on one of the previous podcasts, but Wendy's has the Krabby Patty collab with Nickelodeon. And there it is. There it is, and it's all its glory. At least the people who are making the food made it very neatly. I mean, it's not like, lettuce everywhere, tomatoes and pickles and stuff. Actually, there's no tomatoes. I think it was just pickles, lettuce, American cheese, Krabby Patty sauce, and two patties. And it was fine. I'm not that food review guy that, is pale and looks constantly surprised, and he has like spider fingers with really long nails, and he dresses really nicely. But maybe I should, delve into that. Get a channel where I eat food in front of people. I think actually that no, you don't want that. That's disgusting. Nobody wants to see me do that. I mean, I've got a zit up here, and I'm still healing my lip, and my office just keeps getting worse and worse because people keep cleaning the rest of the house and depositing things in my office. And let me tell you about my sciatica.
Really selling this hard, Josh. Let's move on to the PC Perspective news desk. And in no particular order, because I find this first story less than riveting, but Josh has been making some comments about it on social media. So let's let him talk about this. Intel and AMD team up to form an x86 ecosystem advisory group to accelerate innovation for developers and customers. Josh.
Ecosystem.
So it's an interesting thing, and it's something that, we actually have needed for a very long time. Intel is really famous for not wanting to share, and that's fine. They developed x86, and they had to get a second supplier for, IBM, and AMD came in, and there was cross-licensing agreements, and we've had, billions of dollars of lawsuits and further cross-licensing and, monopoly things.
Years.
And it finally got to the point where in the late 90s, Intel knew that it had to go for a 64-bit architecture, and they developed IA64 with the help of HP. And we all know what that turned into. Say it. Say its name, Sebastian. IA64.
Titanium?
Titanium,
No.
Yes. No, titanium.
Not CF.
Yeah.
Not CF.
What?
It turned into a cluster of titanium chips.
That's different.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so, they were going with titanium, and, it was a proprietary architecture, and they weren't going to share. AMD had a bunch of cross-licensing patents, and there was no clear mandate about not extending x86. And so they made AMD 64, otherwise, later on coined x86 64. And they introduced that in 2004. And Yamhill technology from Intel was a backup plan for them if IA64 didn't come out. So they cross-licensed with AMD to introduce x86 64, and Yamhill wasn't nearly as well implemented as AMD's, because I think, people, if they remember back in the time when they were benchmarking the first Intel x86 64 chips, they performed worse in 64-bit than they did in 32-bit, while AMD was the opposite. Performed fine in 32-bit, much faster in 64-bit. But there was not a whole lot of work in between the groups. And then, Intel went on to develop SSC3. I think that I talked to one of the AMD memory cache architects that just lives down the road 64 miles away from us. And he said, really the only things that have been improved upon in x86 land is the virtualization tech that both AMD and Intel separately did, so you could have virtual machines run much faster on CPUs, and then SSC3 and beyond, and now culminating with AVX 512. But there are very few other things that have been implemented into the x86 architecture. Now, if you look at ARM, they've gone in the last 14 years, they've done ARM v7, ARM v8, ARM v9 now. They've gone fully 64-bit. They keep implementing things at a level that retains compatibility for the most part. Now, ARM v8 and ARM v7, not compatible with each other. They had to, sacrifice a bunch of things to get 64-bit compatibility. And actually, it's a little bit more complex than that. But they keep iterating the architecture, the instruction sets, and all of that, upon request of their clients and their partners. And so we've had a lot of innovation from the ARM side over these past 14 to 20 years, whatever, because they didn't hit really the big time until iPhone, which is 2007, 2008. And that's when things really started rolling for ARM. And they started working closer with partners. implementing improvements. I mean, they kind of had a closed architecture in that they were the only one truly kind of developing it. Even though they had lots of partners and they had Qualcomm. Qualcomm was kind of doing their own thing, but the specifications were kind of set in stone. ARM has been innovating their architecture for really the past 14 years at a unprecedented rate. x86 has remained pretty much the same. The only thing that, again, SSD, virtualization tech, and that's kind of it.
Do you see those being
AMD,
related?
Say that again.
Do you see that being related? That Intel and AMD have finally realized that ARM is starting to become a very attractive alternative. So maybe they should stop screwing around.
This is no longer, ARM is no longer just in the mobile. They are becoming a serious force in cloud computing and other high performance computing with their massive 128 core plus chips. And they have a lot of innovation inside of those that are aimed at making them better at these, massively parallel, super wide, can really chug through and crunch the numbers. And they have implemented a very cohesive connectivity strategy, and the way you can add things like accelerators and whatnot. They were really moving ahead. And so Intel and AMD are finally coming together as like, x86 has remained relatively static. And so literally they came together. Don't take anything else out of that. But, there's Pat, there's Lisa, both very talented engineers. I think they're both good CEOs. I mean, obviously Lisa has had a tremendous amount of success leading AMD to where they are now. And they're working with other groups, including Mr. Linux himself. I think he is part of the. But yeah, I mean HP, all others. I can't remember the entire.
Well, there's a bunch of them that are getting into it because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but they needed to keep up because they haven't been. I mean, individually, the companies have done some really interesting things with their chips.
Oh, yeah. Red Hat was the interesting one.
Go so far. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say Red Hat and Oracle were the interesting ones. Everyone hated Oracle. I can't believe they were allowed to hang out with them. But Red Hat getting in there because, hey, it's finally the year, right?
I don't know. Ever since the CentOS thing, people don't like Red Hat quite as much. But
well, I mean, fair. But
Tim's on there. Linus on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal because it's been far too static for far too long. They've innovated in some areas and really have let the rest kind of be sallow. And it's not a fantastic solution to let things just kind of sit there. But with those two together, I mean, people were asking, what about VIA? I think they still have a x86 license, but they sold off kind of the entire Centaur design group. And a lot of those guys went to Intel. So, yeah, it's a big change because Intel has traditionally been a not invented here type group. They only did x86 64 because IA64 turned out to be such a failure and was just untenable, and nobody wanted to develop for it because it was too complex. It required way too much at the software level and compiler level to be able to get good performance on a wide variety of applications. And so x86 64 won out, and they had to adopt that, and they have the cross-licensing agreement with AMD, and so they were able to implement that as their Yamhill technology. And I think Prescott was their first chip that supported that. And then we saw it, implemented with the Core 2 Duo, and then off to the races with Nehalem and beyond, where they were actually designed from the very beginning to be x86 64 and were much better performance in those envelopes. So yeah, do you guys have any thoughts on this? I think it's very good for the industry to be able to cooperate like this, and both companies really want x86 to survive in the face of NVIDIA being incredibly dominant in high performance computing, ARM starting to really get up there with interesting solutions that maybe not while widespread have been gaining momentum. Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's huge, and it's a long time coming, because really we've been, for the past couple of years, sort of whining that, hey, every new CPU use or every new CPU launch doesn't excite us anymore. There's nothing new. Yeah, we might see an iteration on PCIe or DDR, but honestly, it's like that's the same as last year's with, a couple of more frequency on the boost clock. So getting them to realize, hey, you can't let this architecture go stale. You've got to start, instead of fighting each other, at least sort of work together into something that, from a company side, it's like, okay, if I buy this, you both support the same instruction sets. If I'm programming something, I don't specifically have to programming it for an Intel-based Azure instance or an AMD-based Azure instance or local hardware. I mean, we're not going to see unified chipsets. I don't see that, there will become a day when you can plug an AMD chip into an Intel chip, a motherboard. Not going to happen. That's not what they're going for here. They're just trying to standardize some of the stuff that matters to the people that fork over huge amounts of money for hardware upgrades. And it's going to be interesting to see what ARM does, because, yeah, they've been going through a little bit of a thing, but I think they're over their breakup with NVIDIA and are ready to get back to work. And we'll sort of see just how this works, because ARM's been sneaking into the server room for quite a while now. And now they're really starting to take off. Major companies are realizing, no, that's not a mobile part. That's a really efficient, high-powered processor we can sit in the server room. And I'm interested to see what AMD and Intel are going to be able to manage to do within the coming years, because there's a lot of bitterness in the background of that. It's going to be interesting to see how well they work together. No?
They've worked on other.
I was wondering in that photo if both of them had a dagger in the hand that was behind the back of the other.
Poison fingernail.
This is a much different world than back in 2002 when,
yes,
AMD was going at Intel tooth and nail, and they had, the big Intel marketing fiasco that AMD made a lot of money from once it finally went through all of the legal hoops. They've got common enemies, NVIDIA and ARM, and they have a near stranglehold on, high performance computing, servers, web servers, all of these things out there that still run on x86 64. And they don't want to lose that, even though more enterprise dollars are starting to go towards, NVIDIA and their high performance compute solutions. You still have to, boot up an OS and have all the interrupts and things that such a product, gives you. So, yeah, it's a lot more friendly, but they cooperate on the PCIe specifications. Same thing about memory, things like that. They have a very good track record of working with each other, and this is just another. It's a big step up, but it's one that is definitely needed.
Oh, branch prediction's taken a bit of a beating over the last few years. Let's see, hyper-threading.
Wait, you mean the one patch will fix both? As opposed to two separate patches?
The ISA remains, so they're making advancements in instruction decoding, for instance. So they're taking some cues from what's ARM done well here, and they're building more, on memory, dies, and they're following in some of those footsteps that they can, and going, oh, there's optimizations we can have here in the hardware space, because we've lost a few, at the I don't want to say architectural level, but optimization level, I guess. I don't know what to call that.
I think Jeremy hit the nail on the head when he said efficient.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
The power consumption.
Oh, those Altera chips still pull.
Oh, they do.
Some watts. Yeah. I mean, it's a chunk, but it's not 600 watts. It's not 1,000 watts. But one area, then ARM doesn't like to talk about this, but they don't like to talk about a lot of the optimizations they made at kind of the enterprise level, because the chips that you get in your phone are very, very different from the ones that you get in these massive CPUs at the HP, the high performance compute level. And they don't ever want to talk about it. So it's, if you look at the phones, I mean, their primary goal is efficiency with them. And so, you got the C6 infrastructure, you've got how they connect everything together. And unfortunately, when they have all those cores, big, little, there are interesting things with cache, coherency, and memory accesses are extremely long just because of the way that they have it as a very modular design process. So, performance is not there, but when you get to the enterprise level on stuff, it's a very different beast. And again, they don't ever want to talk about it. And in Editor's Day, you ask them and they just smile like, well, we're talking consumer stuff now.
Anyway, back to x86. One of the most exciting advancements, we talked about the lack of advancement in that space. Well, what about stacking cache? 3D stacking.
That sounds revolutionary. Somebody could do that and use.
Somebody should do that.
Vias.
So AMD, of course, hit a grand slam with the 5800X3D. It's been the part. It's so good. If you're on one of those on an AM4 platform, you don't even need to go to AM5. There's nothing. You won't get a benefit there if you're playing at a higher resolution with a fast graphics card, really. I mean, it's not holding you back. But unfortunately, it looks like the Ryzen 7 5800X3D may have hit end of life. There's a report out of Computer Base, and I was actually looking at the report. I don't know if it's just the way it's being translated. They're just acting like the supply chain is drying up. Clearly, that wouldn't happen unless there were no new shipments coming in. But don't worry, because you can just buy the 7800X3D, right? Because that's readily available. Josh, what were you saying before we went live about you saw the 7800X3D in stock somewhere, right?
Yeah, Newegg. It's in stock for $479 with $10 off promo code. Yeah, free shipping from the United States.
So we're only $20 or $30 above original MSRP now. Originally,
but those savings.
Yeah. So this launched at $449, and for the longest time, it was available for more than $100 below that. Sometimes $130 below that.
Well, you should have said such good things about it.
I know. Here we are. Now it's above MSRP, supply and demand, I guess.
Save $75, my patootie.
Well, you can spend upwards of $699.99.
Yeah,
for this product.
Well, Newegg hinted that we're going to get a lot more stock at the end of this month, and as we're approaching the end of this month, they're starting to get some stock in. But who knows how what kind of pricing we're going to see until the release of something else.
Well, speaking of that release, I'm going to leapfrog the order of the stories here a little bit, because the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, which could very well be the reason we're not seeing this influx of 7800X3Ds, might be here as early as, 10 days from now, 9 days. They're saying, here's a rumor from videocards.com, they're saying October 25 for the debut. Oh, I see, but it won't launch until early November, says this headline.
Yeah. Launch or launch.
Yeah. Won't launch until the following month. So they're going to try to steal some of Intel's thunder. Apparently, the Intel Core Ultra launch, that's October 24. That's right. Then the rumored announcement of 9800X3D is the day after, with it launching 2 weeks thereafter. So if it's coming that quickly, considering how closely related it is to the 7800X3D, it would occupy the exact same place in the market. I'm assuming we'll just see this, and it will be either 449 or even higher. You just never know.
It's not quite the same place. It's 4 versus 5 sockets. So.
Well,
different board.
Well, but it's...
No, the 7800X3D is AM5.
Yeah, it's socket ambivalent.
Oh, sorry. I thought we...
This is the drop-in replacement for the unobtainium 7800X3D, unless you want to pay like $100 more.
I had the 5800 X3D.
Oh, no, you're still thinking 5800. Yeah, that's forgivable.
I was.
Yeah. If you're on AM4, just stay there. Just because it's kind of messy. The AM5 world right now, it's... Doesn't matter what AMD does. If you have a fetish for fives,
that's the only reason to do it. Because other than that, no, it's the same board. It's just got 5s on it. So don't do it.
No, it's not quite the same board, Jeremy. There's more technologies on there, but USB.
Yes, there's more PCIe lanes.
There's a different memory, standard.
Right.
There's
it's a 5. Thunderbolt.
Yeah. So
anyway,
PCIe 5.
Don't expect 7800X3D stock to improve. Expect to see 9800X3D. And some of the numbers I see just scrolling Twitter, it's like, single digit, maybe faster than the outgoing 7800X3D. So what? If it's available and it's even the same performance, it will still be the processor to buy, no matter what AMD announces, no matter what we talk about, no matter what we get for review. The consensus opinion online always seems to be, wait for X3D. Buy X3D. So this is it. If you're interested in a 9000 series processor, the 9800X3D. Okay, next story. AMD, they mean business. With the new EPYC Turin plus Ryzen AI Pro 300 and MI325X AI chips. So much more AMD, so much more data center. And it's all x86.
True.
None of that pesky ARM.
No.
Well, actually, there still is some ARM in each of those chips.
There is.
The previous generation security stuff was all ARM based before Pluton. Anyway, go ahead.
The interesting one is that 192 core 500 watt TDP chip. Now, I was reading an article, I forget where it was today, but they were talking about how on the one hand, hey, brilliant. The density of being able to fit 192 cores into a single U or a 2U, if you want to cool it to a reasonable extent, is great. Like, that's amazing. But what if you have a memory failure? You lose the whole damn thing. Whereas before, those 192 cores were spread out between several machines, and if one failed, it sucked, but it didn't take everything down. And so they're sort of saying that, well, this is amazing in a density sort of way. It does sort of give you single points of failure because you're literally swapping out several boxes for a single one. But if that single one goes down, well, crap. And at the prices, you probably don't want to buy two of them.
The common way to refer to this is the blast radius size.
Yes, that was exactly the article I was reading.
Exactly. There's opportunities for hyperscaling or scaling VMs that cross hosts or cross installations and can sort of scale the workload across maybe a couple of these and fail over to one of them. So you do still end up with an economy of scale, packing that much compute density into physically a small location or a small amount of space. But you have to come up with some more clever failover techniques in order to accommodate the inevitable failure, really, and to diminish the blast radiuses too. Because you're not likely to sell to one customer potentially all the capacity of this device. It's a lot of cores to sell out to a single client.
But that makes the bottom a little more interesting too, because you got that 9175F. It's peaking at 5, a mere 320 watt TDP, but 512 megs of L3. That's a lot to play with. If you're doing a VM and scattering stuff between those cores, that's a lot that each of them get. So
hey, you can play Battlefield 2 on just L3.
You could.
I don't know if you've seen
do that.
Jeremy, the base boost clock is actually higher on that chip as well.
Yeah, 4.2.
By a non-insignificant amount.
Oh, I think it's the fastest clocked one in that SKU, or in that entire launch. And it's a sweet spot, 16 cores. You can scale that out at just over $4,000. Not a ridiculous investment. But it makes they've got a lot of steps here. It makes us, making fun of the old Intel Xeon launches where there was 18 different SKUs and 15 different minerals, and then there were the extra ones on top of that. So AMD sort of learned to spread things out a bit. But
the 128 core also potentially can come equipped with 512 megabytes of L3 cache. Not a huge reduction in clock speed at 2.74.1 also. It's not bad.
No, but a little toasty. That one hits 500 watt as well.
And only it's only going to cost you 13,000. Sorry, go ahead.
If you buy 1,000, it's 13,000 each.
Yeah.
IBM needs to get back into the business of making mainframes, these new chips, so that you could hot swap CPUs, and then update AIX to be able to power all this.
At 500 watts, that's definitely hot swap.
Yeah,
you do have a point on the CPU trays, though. You do have a point there about just racking them in, yanking them out, putting them in.
No, that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some great news, as it is possible that Arrow Lake might not have a one-and-done platform. LGA 1851 could last more than just one generation, according to a leaked slide. But here's the problem with this. So here's a leaked slide, allegedly, showing MSI, like internal stuff that mentions the Arrow Lake refresh. But according to this article here at Tom's Hardware, quote, many leakers still assert that Intel has pulled the plug on Arrow Lake refresh, end quote. So it depends on who you believe. Do you believe this picture, not sure when it was taken, of a slide? Or do you believe the leaker is saying, no, this is one and done? Either way, if you want Core Ultra, the processor that launched last week, or at least that we discussed last week on the podcast, you will need an LGA 1851 board, and it doesn't support anything else. The last three refreshes from Intel have all run on the same platform. You could have a Z690 board and run 12th, 13th, or 14th gen on it. No more.
But if you want extra performance on the next generation, when you're buying the chip when you're waiting in line to buy it, you can buy a card that'll give you a couple extra pins to be able to run a little bit faster.
Yeah, you'll need them because then you'll get home and the new processor requires socket LGA 1852.
Yes. Oh, it'll still run. It's just slower if you didn't buy for that extra pin.
The extra pin is just ground. It's just another ground pin. But it's incompatible with the other platform.
That just lets it know it's in, you bought the correct board. Will enable all performance.
They would never do that. They've never done that between Xeon and desktop platforms, ever. There was no way to mod X58. Okay.
It's really unfortunate that Intel did not overbuild each of their sockets. It's just like, we're going to do it for 2 generations, TikTok, and then, do something else. And that has just led to people getting kind of exhausted about buying. It's like, there's one nice thing about AMD is that, AM4 lasted 7 years. AM5 is going to last 4 to 5. But when you're hitting one generation with an Intel CPU, that's just kind of it's hosing your customers, especially the enthusiasts. It doesn't make as much difference in OEMs, but when you have do-it-yourselfers and enthusiasts and people who want to look to upgrade like this stuff, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. I've had my same AM4 motherboard that went from a 3600X to a 5600X to now a 5800X 3D. I mean, that's, only 2 generations. I didn't get this board when, the original, 1000 series Athlons came out, just because they were kind of crap. 3000 series was really the first, good thing from AMD in a long time. But yeah, it's the same board that I've used for the past 6 years, 5 years. That's a long lifespan. Yeah,
I know.
If you've been running the same board, Josh, for 5 years, the most exciting thing you could do would be to install Windows 11 24H2, because you never know what's going to happen. What kind of hardware incompatibility there might be. What kind of undefeatable feature that was supposed to be ARM only but is lurking under the surface and you can't disable it without actually breaking the file manager to some extent, talking about recall, might there be lurking under the surface? What about if you're running a Western Digital NVMe SSD? Windows 11 24H2, as you covered, causing blue screens of death unless you tweak your registry. Now, as beta testers, we should be prepared for things like this.
I was going to say, buy Microsoft, because you are the beta tester. You get to jet hold of it.
Goes with the territory. I'm using an experimental operating system build, so I might have to do some registry tweaks just to get my hardware to work properly.
I'm not sure that's how they build it.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think they build it so easy. As ready to go. Now, this does drill down to the details. This does seem to be more limited to the WD Blue SN8 550 and the black SN 770. And these are 2 NVMe SSDs that do not have cache equipped. So they sort of borrow a little memory from the operating system. And Windows does a little handshake with them and has, up to this point, set aside 64 megabytes of this sort of cache so that the SSD manufacturer doesn't have to sort of do that. Well, what happened is Windows, this version of Windows 2411, 24H2 from Windows 11, decided to expand that from 64 megabytes to 200. Ooh, this is great. Except the controller really wasn't prepared to deal with that much, incoming, and the chipsets have just sort of given up, and the whole thing just sort of falls over and dies. But you can, as Sebastian was talking about, go in and edit the Windows registry on this. But unfortunately, it doesn't fix it. It just turns this HBM mechanism off. And if you're familiar with DRAMless or cacherless SSDs, they don't perform very well. So even removing this sort memory. Even removing this sort of in operating system reserve kind of slows these things down just by turning it off. So it's a kind of a bad situation.
Yeah. And it's good that, only specific Western Digital NVMe SSDs use HMB and absolutely nothing else does.
There are other ones out there that also take advantage of a similar situation, and the reserve. They don't seem to be falling over in quite the same manner right now. But
doesn't an iGPU also use that same protocol to borrow from
mileage
your system
may vary
memory a little bit?
Well, sure. That's memory mapped IO, I believe. But
yeah, it is.
One of the reasons we're not hearing more issues about 24H2, doubtless, is just that not a lot of people are running it yet. So just wait till more users have unstable systems. Maybe the instability gets so bad that they can't even report it to Microsoft. Then what? I mean,
that's a you problem.
If only there was some way for Microsoft to constantly screenshot my system and then send an image back to them so they could see the blue screen as it happens.
Copilot.
And then Google the error code and come up with absolutely no results as well.
Yeah. Well, this is for their benefit. You're testing the operating system for them. They don't have
that doesn't mean they want feedback
anymore.
You're testing it. They don't want feedback. No, come with me with a solution.
Just use it. Use it and get our numbers up. Well, come on, we need greater adoption. Come on, get on board. Stop acting like this is the year of Linux. You know you're not going to get off of Windows. Just do it. Take it. Take whatever we give you. Take it.
Like it.
You don't have to like it. You're going to take it. Okay? It's like medicine.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
What are you going to do? Migrate to Linux?
You don't like the taste? Take it.
50 Shades of Grey there.
Next news story. The FTC makes click to cancel a thing in the US. Finally. It's actually going to be the law, I guess, that if it's really easy to sign up for something, it has to be just as easy to cancel that subscription.
Well, it's the FTC, so you know.
It won't be done in a way that you find workable, probably.
Oh, you naughty boy. Here, give me your wrist. I'll give you a little tiny slap. Okay, now don't do it again. Oh, you did it again. Oh, I'm just disappointed in you. Here, I will just slap the other wrist. Okay. Oh, you're back again. Oh, did you like this, naughty boy? Yeah. It's not going to be great.
I'm not sure where this is going, but okay.
I'm a little disappointed with the FTC.
Almost again.
Yeah.
I mean, you started it. Almost as disappointed as CRTC because they haven't even tried to do anything like this up here. But it's not so much that, hey, look, you subscribe to a service. It's on you to know that, remember it, and subscribe. What's not is when you sign up to something and they throw you into a chat bot that refuses to let you unsubscribe unless you sign up for other things or provide justification. Or, those automatic renewals that they never tell you about. They just did it. Oh, and by the way, we tripled the price. But again,
hey, it was in the fine print you didn't read.
Oh, but that's sort of what the FTC is saying. Like, it's the stuff that in the tiny print that you never read or that was changed, because all you get is an email saying, "Hi, we've changed our subscription agreement."
It's true. Click here to read.
There's no click.
And the next time you go to use your service, it says, "Please agree to the new terms of..." Like, I don't. Yes, whatever. Come on, I want to watch the game.
Yeah.
Like,
well, exactly. If you don't agree, you're not allowed to watch.
You didn't read the fine print of the EULA? Oh no!
Where we said you were signed up for 10 years now on an ever increasing scale. So that's what it's been. So that's what it's supposed to combat.
And that you can't sue us, Disney.
Hey, you're lucky they didn't kill you. You're a Disney Plus subscriber, aren't you?
And you rode one of our rides? Maybe. Oh, I think that guy died, actually. And so it's pretty sad.
I was meaning the guy who ate shellfish, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
The other guy did die. So
yeah,
it's going to be, and it'll be lip service, but hey, it's good that someone's actually starting to think about, hey, it's on you to cancel your subscriptions and keep track of them, but when you can't actually do it, that's a problem. So here's hoping that they do a little bit of enforcement.
That almost felt like an Insecurity Corner story, but it wasn't, because that segment begins now. Welcome
to Insecurity Corner, your weekly reason to drink.
And our first story...
Need another beer.
Sysadmins rage over Apple's nightmarish SSL TLS cert lifespan cuts. This is getting into... I'm reading the subtitle here. I can
say some very obscene words here.
It's
Max, do you know what in the ass update certs is? If you have a reasonable sized company and you have to update certs, it's a month-long process of getting everything from, getting your DNS guys to talk to the certs guys so you can have your wildcards and everything else, and you get that downloaded, and you have to go through different, Apache's going to be different from Nginx and Windows, and you got to have different things.
Well, PKM
server requires a JKS versus a PC12. It's awful. And they want you to do that every how many days?
45.
It's first of all,
you would have a 15-day break before you had to start over again.
Hold up. Let's just put this in context. It's context here. Google has also asked for the validity to be pushed down to 90 days. So it's not just Apple, but it's supposed to be scaled in over a period of number of years. And they do have a reasonable reason for this. Not that I agree with it, because Josh, I completely understand what you're saying. And it's not just the web servers.
Hey,
it's APIs. It's
listen to Brett. He's not just defending Apple because he's a fanboy. It's because there are reasons.
I don't think it's a great idea. As someone who has to maintain systems as well, it's awful concept. I agree with Josh. But they aren't the only company pushing for this, and they have particular reasons for it. It's to shut down malware and people who have abused the long lifespan of certificates in the past to continue to run malicious services that clients handshake with as a trusted entity. So if you are rotating these certificates on a more regular basis, you can shut down the bad actors more quickly. And unfortunately, that situation shows no sign of stopping, of bad actors taking advantage of legitimate methods of communications or legitimate communications between clients and servers, whether that's API based, whether it's a web page, whether it's some sort of automation on a handheld that's phoning home to pick up an update, or a camera that's you're using at your front, or a doorbell or whatever.
And
they all do this
45
sort of thing.
or 90 days is going to somehow inconvenience them more than the people actually trying to maintain those certs.
I agree.
Josh forgot the final step. After you've done all that, it's the calls. I've got this pop-up that says I should have to trust a new cert. Should I trust it or not?
They're scared. They're being cautious.
Every certificate. And hey, I do appreciate it, except now every 45 freaking days.
Clients are going to have to get used to this thing. A lot of, and I mean, when I say a lot of, I mean literally like millions, probably. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic.
This is going to be the new vector. If people are going to get so used to clicking on, approve new cert.
Oh yeah, accept a token, accept
millions.
Yeah, it's a brand new one, no problems.
Clicking on things.
Look up Let's Encrypt and how many people are using it via a plugin in WordPress.
Yeah,
it is literally millions, and they roll that monthly. So it is possible to do without a scary pop-up. Okay, so it can be done. Those certs are only good for 30 days, for instance.
Chat brings up a great point. Can't AI just handle it? Come on, just have AI handle this cert issue. You don't have to be bogged down at work.
Perfect. We can use invisible characters in the unused extended 16-bit character space. It'd be great.
Yeah. Because AI is always trustworthy.
Yes.
Nobody has ever injected any malicious code into these neural models. And
nope.
You just need to put hundreds of thousands of H200s online in record time.
Yes.
Why
are all your root certs provided by ChatGPT? Are you sure that's right?
That's a name you can trust. Malicious ads exploited Internet Explorer 0 day to drop malware, says Bleeping Computer.
I mean, if you're still using Internet Explorer, you're probably in a very important job, because they still haven't upgraded any of their damn stuff to use Edge, and so you're still using IE9 in giant governmental bodies, banks, recently ATMs. The people who haven't.
Let's talk about your power, your water, your sewer management. Yeah, they're all still running this.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that you laugh until you realize who's still using IE. Like if you had to go to the hospital tonight, good chance that's what it is. And if you're saying, oh, well, don't worry, there's air gapped, please refer to previous week's podcast. So, I mean, hey, on the one side, I mean, it is sort of a four-step one that isn't particularly easy to deal with, but at the same time, it's a tried and true JavaScript exploit, which then sort of injects into Explorer.exe. I mean, I didn't read very much into it because I realized who this affected, and I just got depressed and moved on to other.
I can tell you this has been patched in the past. This uses what they call the RockRat malware, and it does data exfil and stuff like that. And this has been patched in the past, and it's been considered solved. It took 3 lines of code changes, and it escaped the patching, and it is back in business. unfortunately. So this was, again, like I said, patched by Microsoft in the past. It is now considered another zero-day exploit and a very high severity type data confusion flaw. And it's delivered. The worst part about this is it's delivered via zero-click pop-up iframe ads. Ouch.
Yep.
Very,
so
very painful.
They go after the
very
ads.
Very painful.
Microsoft must have been taking notes on this, by the way, because it says here, the malware also performs
Copilot diagram.
Monitors for clipboard changes, and captures screenshots every 3 minutes. Yes.
Wait a minute.
Says,
this is the design doc for Copilot. I'm flat. I'm just flat.
Thank you, North Korean hacking group.
Yeah.
You've made 24H2 better than ever.
Anyway, IE is clearly supposed to be well past retirement, but as we sort of joke about it, there's so many places still using it for reasons.
I've got a ticket that's been open for about 6 months because built-in a piece of software who the built-in browser for testing is still IE, and it's not working.
It's a test runner or something, right?
Yeah. Well, my original response was, that's good. IE shouldn't be running. Has been met with less enthusiasm than I'd hoped.
Hey, it's time for our monthly reminder that Android apps are potentially unsafe. It depends on, who's publishing them. How is this even possible? Did somebody who loves Apple put this on our list?
Look, it's not malicious if it's true, right?
I see.
We already dumped on Apple earlier on the SSL.
Oh, okay. We have to have it's fair and balanced. That's right. 200 malicious apps on Google Play, downloaded millions of times. I like how this article says that Google Play is the official store for Android. Interesting.
Although,
pertinent information there.
Let me just bring Apple back into this because you invited it. The reason why this is so bad is because they're using a versioning method that delivers malware through application updates that's loading from outside the servers that Google is controlling and making them, trying to find the malicious actors inside the code where they're seeking these sort of things and trying to call them out.
Does Apple do it that way?
Why? No, but the European Union is trying to force Apple to allow app side loading as a matter of course, because Google does. Android works that way. Why can't we have the archaic and
I'm sure Tim Sweeney also wants it that way as well.
This is one of the reasons.
Battle. Yeah.
Tim. Oh, that was very funny, both of you. Yes. That is correct. Anyway, there was a point to it. Apple was trying to help.
Trying to help by forcing you into their walled garden, their curated ecosystem.
Yes.
That's right. Where you could feel safe and warm and comforted.
And never leave.
Yes. Okay. It has downsides. Yeah. This is one of them.
You can check it anytime you want, but
that was the only downside, as it turns out, to being in Apple's walled garden. Okay, next story. Samsung, one of Apple's biggest pals, their smart TV snooping might be worse than you
it's
think.
Not Samsung, it's all of them.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking at the Samsung Smart TV picture you used.
It said Smart TV and it came up and it wasn't licensed, so I said, what the heck?
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't... One of my major complaints is you can't opt for a dumb TV anymore. Like, you can't even pay extra money to just get a dumb TV.
No, that's how they're subsidizing the cost. That's why they're so cheap.
Yes. But essentially what this was a report that was done fairly recently, spelling out just how bad things are. And so it's like, we heard about the Sony TVs, accidentally using the camera to record everything that happened in front of the TV, or the voice remotes that, oddly seem to be advertising stuff that you talked about a day or two before, even though you've completely disabled it. The amount that they'll sell that data to whoever, offers them money or just, discounts on something else. It just sort of shows that all of these things that the companies say, oh no, we promise we don't do that. Yeah, no, they totally do that. If you're sitting in front of a smart TV, your information is being sold. And, the FTC, as I mentioned before, doesn't do a damn thing. FCC, CRTC up here, the various privacy companies over in the EU and the UK, they haven't been doing a damn thing. So this is a push to get a lot of the, not just smart TVs, but the advertiser-supported TV services. You sign up for Tubi because, hey, it's free. Well, if it's free, it means you're the product. But just to be a little more honest about how much they are selling your data and what they are collecting, and the fact that they might be collecting recordings of minors in front of TVs and not mentioning that, because that is a major no-no in a lot of in a lot of countries.
That sounds illegal.
It's only if you get caught selling it on the internet.
Did you really buy a TV with a webcam?
Not
Obviously,
yet, but if I
none of
upgrade my TV, I'm going to have to. Can you find one without one?
Yeah.
I thought webcams were less common. I know Samsung had some where they popped up.
I hope
from
they
the top.
are, because
Yeah, my LG,
otherwise,
it's just still pretty new, doesn't have one. And
good.
Mine doesn't either. Nope, no webcam, but it does listen.
Oh, good.
Have you taken it apart? Have you looked everywhere? It could be hiding under the surface of the screen somewhere, in that
Sebastian,
little bezel.
When was the last time you plugged your TV into the internet?
I don't know. 3 years?
Never.
I got some firmware update
Really?
and then unplugged it again.
Yeah.
It's never online. But, I mean, do I really trust that? What if it's secretly connecting to my home Wi-Fi?
It probably could.
Even though I turned it off.
Like my damn Threadripper system. I decided to redo it and throw Windows 11 on an M.2 just fresh.
Windows
Western Digital.
First mistake.
Western Digital, I assume.
It was a Samsung 970. Apparently, it has onboard Wi-Fi, and there is literally no way to disable it. Short of, maybe removing the shroud and prying that chip off of the PCB. There's no BIOS setting to disable it. There's no way I could disable it. And because Windows 11 could see some neighbor's network, I couldn't do the proper setting up with absolutely no internet whatsoever. I had to actually do the Microsoft account and hook up a second computer to it because I couldn't disable the Wi-Fi. So yeah, your TV might say it's not connected, but hey.
Jeremy, this is a great time to talk about Faraday cages again. It's been a while since we've featured them on this podcast.
I was seriously thinking about it.
Just put a bunch of tinfoil around your system and then restart that Windows installation.
I was considering doing it just to see if it would work. Maybe some chicken wire.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, in Insecurity Corner, National Public Data files for bankruptcy, admits hundreds of millions potentially infected.
Yeah, they tried to say it was
like a guy.
Affected, not infected, but...
They tried to say it was only maybe 1.3 million people. Turns out that was maybe not quite accurate. It's really more like 2.9 billion individuals.
It's really more like everyone.
The U.S.
Yeah, it's kind of everyone. Turns out that this was basically one guy running the entire National Public Data system on a few old servers and a couple of HP desktops and a laptop. Let's not leave out that laptop. And this is a company that made like $1.1 million, over the last fiscal year. They have no assets to speak of, and they've declared bankruptcy and are shutting down. We can't support your whatever you're going to be suing us for, them, for, and we can't give you the monitoring for your name, or your credit report or whatever. Too bad for you. We're just gone.
The only thing that surprises me about this is he's not from Nebraska.
No, it's just some random dude. I mean, they put his name in here. It's
Florida man.
Florida man. Yeah, it's Florida man. It is essentially Florida man. But this won't be the last time that you see a data broker get malwared and have their entire store busted open and shared online for millions. I believe the malware bad actors tried to resell this data cache for $3.5 million.
Far more than he's ever made in his entire history of running it.
Yeah.
What if he's behind it?
Malware fraud? Novel. Okay.
Fireman burning down his own. Yeah, could be.
Interesting take. His he's got total assets of about $25,000 to $75,000. So, and a real cache of URLs that he could he keeps at values at $25 a piece. So, yeah, anything's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
There's no regulation in this space whatsoever for all these data aggregators. So you're going to see this again, isn't it?
Let's put it before, Congress and have a bunch of out of touch people act very confused and ask hilariously.
Can't we just close off the series of tubes?
Yeah.
Beat you to it.
Yeah.
Can you put a filter on the tubes?
Exactly.
Why are the tubes going just unfettered through there? Where's the air cleaner?
Wipe the server. You mean with like a cloth or something? I don't know.
No, they need to use Lysol because Lysol kills 99.9% of viruses.
Bugs and viruses, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I keep on hearing about these viruses from the young people, okay? Why aren't we using Lysol on the computers?
Yeah.
Okay?
Think of the children.
Right.
I'm thoroughly depressed now because I realize how accurate all of those were.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's move on to gaming quick hits. And our first story, Goat Simulator, the original, the OG, is being remastered. Pilgor rides again, November 7th. This is exciting.
That's true. For certain people like me, it is.
I love Goat Simulator. It's a big hit in my whole household.
And the first one was much more wholesome. So yeah, they've redone everything with a brand new engine. They've included all of the DLC. So Goat nice. The Ways to Space, and the Payday one. And you get all the mutators. So if you want to be Tall Goat, you can just spawn as Tall Goat. If you want to be Pointy Goat or Heavy Goat, not a problem. So there you go. The gas station looks gorgeous now. I can't wait to blow it up.
There's a certain charm to the original graphics, I have to say.
Oh, there is.
This looks a lot like Goat Simulator 3 now. So,
well, yeah, it's going to be the same engine as it was, but it's remastered. Hopefully, it's relatively cheap, and they've added a bunch of new stuff because that's what they do. Coffee stains,
they outdo themselves every time.
Well, this was originally a physics simulator. They were like, hey, this is the new physics engine we are going to be using for some of our games, because they actually make, more widely accepted games. And they put it on, and there were thousands of people, myself included, saying, no, screw you, you need to release this as a game. To which they replied, you're all nuts, you're insane, and they kept coming in and coming in and coming in until eventually they said, yeah, fine. Give us $25, I think it was, and you can play this thing. And, well, they're still suffering from that decision to this day. Or having great fun.
This is via Ars Technica. I saw this somewhere earlier today. Analog, that company that does FPGAs, don't call it an emulator. And you play actual cartridges instead of just, ROMs that you happen upon. For $250 US, you can buy the ultimate N64. They've finally done it. They're venturing into the 3D realm with an N64 that's ready for modern TVs. 4K, a bespoke, purpose-built upscaler inside of each of these. Now, how long until Nintendo shuts this down, by the way?
Maybe
I'm
tomorrow.
not even sure it'll get to launch.
Looks nice.
They spent 4 years building a custom FPGA.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Nintendo will look into this very, very closely.
They wanted to capture what they call the unmistakable essence of CRT on today's screens. I don't know how
is there a
CRT
CRT filter baked into this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Purpose-built 4K upscaler.
If only there was some way to emulate N64
CRT
games with a CRT filter without spending $250 on this. I can't think of one. All right. Definitely pre-order this as soon as it's available, and then hope Nintendo does not shut it down.
Because you may be the only one that
Nintendo can stop anything they feel like, David. If Nintendo wants it stopped, it'll be stopped.
Former Disco Elysium devs are working on a spiritual successor at new studio Longdo, though Robert Kurvitz and Alexander Rostov aren't involved. If you know those
for
names,
reasons
you're
that will
probably
be very
deeply
quickly
invested in
revealed.
this story. Okay.
So yeah, if you like that sort of thing, they're going to make more of it.
Yeah. We'll now quickly follow on to the second link.
Wait a minute. Was that the spiritual successor to Disco Elysium
Yes.
that we've been waiting for? Or was it?
Or was it the sci-fi version from several other previous developers of Disco Elysium?
Yes, if it wasn't clear, the previous story was former developers of Disco Elysium were going to build a spiritual successor. No, wait.
Minus
These
two major ones.
These former developers are going to be building a spiritual successor in a sci-fi backstory.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
That's why
Which is obviously enough. They wouldn't do a third one.
When I hear the name XXX Night Shift, I'm thinking either it's some kind of adult content or it's related to professional wrestling.
It's probably
Vin
both.
Diesel?
If it's
No, that'd be
Disco
Triple
Elysium.
H. Sorry. So XXX is Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Triple H is wrestling. XXX Night Shift is some kind of sci-fi game.
Oh, wait a minute. Both of these are wrong. Neither one of these are the spiritual successor
Okay,
of
this is
Disco
getting
Elysium.
confusing.
Because
Let me
it
find
is
link number
the third spiritual successor that
These.
stood.
This is the true spiritual successor. This third group for former Disco Elysium devs announcing a whole new studio to build spiritual successors.
They don't have a name for their RPG yet, but they're looking to gather authors, writers who are apparently different from authors, designers who previously worked together on Disco Elysium.
Well,
as
you
well as
can't
new
because
talent.
they're
This just
already
sounds like a
busy
bunch
with the
of-
other two projects.
Nonsense.
But you know what? This is totally on brand for the kind of wacky game this kind of was.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I'm doing a
This
replay
sounds-
of it because I never did it
this
after the
sounds
enhanced
right.
came out.
this sounds right.
I just became art cop.
Yeah. Anyway, this seems right. So there should be plenty of, if you like this sort of game, there's probably more of it coming soon from 1, 2, or 3 different places.
Or more. There could be a fourth one coming out.
All right, I think
Apologies
it is time.
for getting those.
Whoa, Blind.
Whoa!
New Zealand
What happened here?
loves us.
Thanks.
Blind, thank
Blind.
you.
And we love the Kiwis.
Thank
We
you,
do.
Blind.
Is that considered a derogatory term, by the way, for people from New Zealand or no?
No.
Blind could answer this question.
Yeah, Blind, please let us know in the comments. Is it considered insulting to be called a Kiwi if you're from New Zealand?
We would like to know.
Also, does it annoy you that Americans, by and large, probably couldn't tell your accent from an Australian accent?
Yes, that does annoy them.
That would
and
be
it's
very insulting. Are you from
It
Australia?
is quite different.
It says
Chat
chat loves you all.
I actually am wondering if he can tell us if the Parliament in New Zealand is more in touch.
All right, too many
we
words.
can just go there.
Yes. Yes, they are. And Australia hasn't had good parliament since the Prime Minister went out and never came back from swimming. Literally happened.
All right. Let's move to picks of the week. Josh, it is tradition to start with you.
It's a strange tradition, especially since Jeremy's been here longer than I have. Longer than all of us. But I'll take it. I don't know why.
Thanks for pointing that
Just
out.
is. Yeah. Anyway, Radeons have all taken a drop in price. So you can pick up the RX 7900 XT for $650, and the one I chose is the XFX Merc 310, an outstanding unit, nicely built. You can knock somebody out with this video card if you really wanted to. But you don't want to do that because, one, it would hurt somebody, and two, you'd probably break your video card. But anyway, it's still solid. Runs cool. Very quiet. And, we don't know what the next generation stuff's looking like. But it's going to be at least 4 months out, if not farther. So if you're having an issue with games and you want to play them faster, it's a nice time to pick one of these up because that's, it's a nice, they were introduced at $899, right? So that's $250 less than an introduction, which makes me happy to think about.
Sebastian, I don't remember what the take you had originally on the 7900 XT versus the XTX. Does it still hold? As in, like, worth it for the XT? I mean, the price seems right now, so seems viable.
At launch, I thought no one should buy an XT. The only reason they were was because the XTX was sold out. Because they were too close to each other. They were $100 apart. You got significantly better performance with the XTX. Now, I mean, it's been like 3 years. So at this point, you'd expect them to be a lot cheaper. But also, just buy whatever you can afford. Graphics cards are insane. Who wants to spend?
CPUs are insane. Motherboards are insane. What has gone down in price other than
storage?
M.2s.
Yeah, storage has been the bright spot.
Memory for a little while. But
memory's memory's on the way down again.
DDR5's coming down.
Yeah, DDR5 is actually reasonable.
But yeah, now there's $200 difference between the XT and the XTX.
That's where it should have been. The
Ouch.
XT should have launched at $799 all along. Okay. Jeremy, your pick.
I deny everything. This comes from another old timer. Patrick Norton, who still occasionally posts to that hellscape formerly known as Twitter, spotted Jet KVM, which it looks interesting. It's KVM over IP. Completely open source, so guess what? It's not complete iOS, it's IoT, because you'll be able to upgrade the operating system, the firmware, and a variety of other things because they are going with very open hardware and such. They actually threw an RJ11 extension port on it, so you can add extra hardware capabilities or, program it, because it's essentially a serial port. It's 1080p, but hey, you've got HDMI out, USB-C. But the interesting thing is that they are, instead of throwing in some custom VPN software to be able to remotely connect to stuff, it's just the good old WebRTC. So it's kind of a little bit entertaining, and it's Kickstarter. So I mean, hey, we have all lost a little bit of money on Kickstarter, but they're only asking $70. And so far, they're like 3 times over their goal. So it's interesting. And just like the idea of, instead of having to physically plug stuff in to be able to handle an entire rack or to be able to handle a bunch of machines within your home, no, it's KVM over IP. So you plug in an external monitor, you plug in a keyboard and mouse, and you just pick whichever machine you want to connect to, and away you go. It looks interesting. Written on Golang, so look into it. But hey, this could be really handy for a lot of stuff. And at $70, hey, that's a decent price for a KVM.
All right, interesting. Who's next? Brett.
So Netflix did something unusual a little while ago, and they actually didn't cancel a show before they got to close the series down. And I was enjoying seasons 1, 2, and 3 of The Umbrella Academy when they finally closed that out with a 4th season, an abbreviated 4th season. It was still reasonably good, but I enjoyed the content, so I started looking into it a little bit more, and I found out that Jared Way of the My Chemical Romance actually had written all the stories. So I started getting some of the comics and getting some of the backstory on this, and started enjoying the stories in a different format. And there, you can buy the entire series as a conglomerate box set for only $22 right now.
Damn, that's not bad.
If you enjoy the storytelling from the Umbrella Academy and the interesting styling and writings of the whole thing, Jared Way was an interesting, like I said, he's a creative, being the lead singer and creative force behind My Chemical Romance. Decided to find this other outlet and sort of write all these funny stories for various. This isn't the only series he's done, but the Umbrella Academy was interesting. And like I said, experience it for $22 in the original format. It's sort of like all of the comic books assembled into one box set. $22.
Nice. Kent, your pick.
So storage prices are actually reasonable again. They keep threatening to go up, but they just start and then they come back down. This is probably the third time I have picked a Silicon Power NVMe SSD, the US 75, which is their best controller. This is a 4 terabyte for $208.99 if you're a Prime member. And it's a very good performing SSD.
Cache or no cache?
I believe these have cache. I'm not sure.
It says compatible with PS5. I think that has to have cache.
Yeah, I can see a DRAM. It says right up the top there.
Okay.
So it said how much, but it did say it has DRAM. It's got some DRAM memory on it.
So it has cache. Fantastic. That's a good price.
My pick this week is the Hollyland Lark M2 Duo combo system. Now, that sounds confusing. It's a wireless mic system that comes in a little case that looks like an oversized AirPods case because it's this magnetic thing.
Oh, isn't that cute?
And then you put your little wireless microphones in there, and then the transmitter goes in there. But the transmitter is actually on my camera right now, so you can see it just sits on top of your camera.
Oh, look at that.
In the shoe, and then I just have it wired in with the microphone cable. But these things are ridiculously small, and I love that not only is the case magnetic. Here's one of the mics. The mic itself is magnetic. This is the whole thing, and the back of it is
usually
a little magnet. So when you want to put it on, you just put it anywhere.
Yeah, just and it's magnetized.
See, it's just magnetically on my shirt now. You don't have to clip it, any of that kind of stuff. Has nice noise cancellation built in, which seems to work pretty well. I've been doing some filming down here the last couple of days, and it's so nice.
Say no more. Say no more.
Just so throw this on the T-shirt. Yeah. You don't have to worry about it. I had been using a wired lapel mic, and I was always tied really close to my camera, and it was awkward, and I've ripped it off before. No more. All wireless. And the cool thing about this combo set, which by the way is $140 right now, $139, is that it also comes with these little adapters. One is Lightning and one is USB-C. So regardless of your phone persuasion, you can pop one of these in a smartphone and be using this as your wireless mic. You can do some of those vertical videos that everybody's into these days with actual decent audio. So, I mean, what's not to like? I'm going to be making videos with this. And by the way, if you want to check out the sound quality, there is, let's see, what is it?
You talked about the phone connectors almost without bias. I was impressed.
Yeah, it's whatever you want it to be. Okay, there's a YouTuber who's a stand-up comic from Canada who reviews camera gear. He has a video review. He just says a line. He'll make up some ridiculous line. And then he says the same line with different microphones, and it's plugged directly into the camera. You get an idea of the sound quality with and without the noise cancellation turned on. He goes outside. You can hear how it cuts down on wind noise and stuff. These sounded great, and they're half the price of a solution from like Rode or DJI, so you can't go wrong. Anyway, it's time to end the podcast. I want to thank everybody in our listening audience, those of you watching on youtube.com or the YouTube app on your Android or iOS smartphone, all of you out there enjoying this content that just wouldn't be possible without you, because I mean, I enjoy listening to it again as I edit sometimes, but what if I was the only one listening? What if it was like a Johnny Depp movie where he makes the film and then he never watches it? And if nobody else watches it, you know, did it ever happen?
Are you trying to?
He doesn't remember making it, so did it happen? Mm-hmm. If nobody sees the finished,
it's almost an existential crisis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So don't put yourself into that situation. Don't be like Johnny Depp.
Are you talking about the Lone Ranger?
Listen to our show. Did anybody watch that? I haven't seen it yet.
It's a movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is a movie.
It exists.
It's definitely one of the films of all time.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Okay, well, that's it. Podcast over.